Okay, so there are two important moments, I think, for the development of the professional managerial class in the United States. One, I already spoke about during the progressive era, when capitalism was in a crisis, industrial capitalism was in a crisis. A part of the American elites saw themselves as liberal reformers, wanted to improve things, but this class eventually expanded in power and number because capitalism became more complex. And I think it was Marx who said that in the original version of the capitalist firm, the manager was like a family servant who did the will, who disciplined workers, managed the finances of the capitalist. But soon, managerialism became its own specialization. And part of it had to do with Fordism, because industrial production had a drive for efficiency, and which meant that labor power and capital and the cost of capital had to be controlled so that surplus value could be maximized. And this part of the working class, if you like, the professional managers, worked for capitalists to manage and increase surplus value, and in turn their share of surplus value. The real evolution of this class's power really becomes cemented, I think, after World War II, when the Cold War begins. The Cold War begins in such a way that the U.S. has to manage its economic sovereignty against the USSR through a new kind of technocratic military-industrial elite. Along with its corporate leaders, this kind of trust in the military strategies to fight communism was really an important kind of moment for Cold War PMCs to become more and more powerful in the United States. Also, universities expanded enormously after World War II. Very, very few people went to college, but every soldier who had served in the war could have his education, usually it was a hymn, paid for completely by the government. This means that working class men, young men, mostly some young women, could, once they were accepted in a university, could have a free university education. This means there were more students, more professors, and you have more white-collar workers suddenly entering the workforce. Then we also owe the Soviet Union the expansion of this class in 1959, when the Soviet Union put Sputnik in the air, and Americans have a complete freak out, and they realize they have to invest so much more money in research and development, in scientific education, and you have this massive expansion of the university systems. So that's a really important moment for the expansion of this class. When deindustrialization happens in 1972, when the U.S. enters a period of stagflation, and it enters an industrial policy to move heavy industry jobs offshore, mostly at that time to Japan, to South Korea, to Taiwan, this class emerges as increasingly important to manage that phase of globalization. In fact, Jim English, in his book on prestige and awards, says in 72, the weight of things produced in America, like bricks, iron, gears, wheels, starts to go down. And at that same year is the year when Taiwan, where I was born, the agricultural activity is supplanted by industrial activity. So these kinds of logistics, this kind of complex globalized world needs to be taken charge of by professional managers. And so you see with finance capital, post-industrial capitalism, this expansion of this class's importance and its sheer numbers in the United States too. The farmers made up 25% of American workers in 1900. White-collar workers, doctors, lawyers, college-educated people, 3%. By 2000, those numbers are completely reversed. So you could say we don't even see the working class anymore. We don't see the farmers anymore. Most American cities are very designed for PMC people. But who produces value in America, who produced value in America, which kinds of jobs brought the American middle class into a kind of ideal position for the world to look up to. It was industrial jobs. And the center of the country is collapsing. The only country in the industrialized world who has seen a decline in living in life expectancy was the Soviet Union after 1989. Recently, American life expectancy for non-college educated people has also declined. So I would say, like, the American PMC is destroying its own working class.